Okay, so welcome everyone again. If you are just coming in, I am so excited to be here and sharing the wisdom of the stars with you on this February 22nd. And the specific call of this gathering is crucial astro dates for women on a sacred mission. And I'm really blessed to have connected with a lot of you. We just had a summit with my other astrology collaborator, amazing astrologer, Emily Trinkus. We did the Aquarius High Council. So if you're a part of that, shout out. So glad to have you here. And we went deep and we went wide and it was amazing. So I wanted to give a chance to share a little bit more of my medicine as an astrologer, as a longtime astrologer, and to bring some crucial dates to your attention. Now, this is good for anyone. If you're not a woman, that's totally fine. It's such a powerful journey to embark upon, whoever you are. And specifically, who I work with in my work with Venus Wisdom is women who are really feeling this call to bring their sacred work to the world and to bring more of their authenticity, to bring more of their potency. So I want to give a little bit of acknowledgement, and then we're going to dive right in. We have a couple hours here. And as I was preparing for this, I was like, there might need to be a part two. We're living through such a significant time, and we're going to get into that. But I wanted to give a special thanks to Danette, who is here, and she's going to be helping me in the chat, dropping some links and just helping me to hold the space. I so appreciate that. She came in at the in the middle of our summit and helped us with the admin because we were just not getting the support we needed. So super shout out to Net. And then I also want to see if she's still here. Oh my goodness, I am so blessed that Adrian is here. Let me see if I can find you. And it's okay, you don't need to be off or anything, but Adrian is my sister-in-law, and she's an astrologer, and she caught the whiff of the Venus wisdom and she decided to come. So really extra special thanks and welcome to you, Adrian. I'm so glad you're here and so honored. So we are looking at this time of the age of Aquarius, and it's intense. Oh, there you are. Hi, Adrian. Yeah, I was just trying to find your face. Great. We're looking at this time of the age of Aquarius and really the tools that can support us during this time. And so that's a part of why we go to astrology, right? Is to receive some additional guidance on how do we move with these waves of change. So before we begin, I want to invite you, if you feel inspired to, if you have a candle and you want to light it, to just bring that energy of fire into the space, into your space. It doesn't need to be, if you want to do that in a kind of ceremonial way, beautiful. If not, if you just want to light a flame, and if you don't, I got you covered. Judith, beautiful. I see your flame. Gorgeous. It's just this way of, gathering around the hearth of this virtual reality, and bringing that warmth and bringing that, people used to sit around the fire and tell their stories. So I love to have the candle. I love to have that connection. And I might need a little help with, it sounds like somebody who has a lovely, lovely chuckle is off mute. I'm going to mute everybody here, which is beautiful, but it might get noisy. Okay, great. I'm just now seeing all your notes here. I will do my best to keep an eye on the chat, but likely I'm just going to go for it, and then we can go into questions at the end. because there's a lot to cover here. And as I was preparing for this, I was, really seeing, all these different layers. So let's just go into this slide. I'm going to share some slides with you. All right. I don't know if you're having any kind of Aries experiences, but aside from the candle, I was dancing around this morning with my cat. She likes that. It's just like feeling that Aries energy. And I did after the shower, I did the cold water and, just, really invoking the experience of that Aries, of that fresh start, because today is one of our crucial dates. And I'm going to get into more about why. Today is a really important day. So if you haven't yet, you want to be thinking about how you can invoke this energy of the Aries, because that is the first spark. Talk about the spark. It's the first spark of inspiration in the zodiacal journey. Aries is the first sign. And then of course, as I was like, getting my tea or whatever, I ended up breaking a jar, a mason jar. It fell in the sink, cut my finger, and there was blood everywhere. And I was like, oh gosh, this is so Aries, it's just like too funny. And then I was having trouble typing. So Aries is here, and okay, we're going to get more into that. Okay. Everybody can see the slide, yeah? Okay, beautiful. So crucial Astro dates for 2023 for women on a sacred mission. And you can see Venus is here, and the cycle of Venus is here, as represented by the rose pattern in the middle of this Venus sign. And I wanted to highlight the Venus dates because they're so crucial for the age of Aquarius. And there's a lot that's going on, especially in March. We know that we have Saturn going into Pisces. We know that we have the huge change of Pluto going into Aquarius. We have Mars finally shifting out of Gemini after that long retrograde cycle. And so, I really encourage you, during that Age of Aquarius Summit, we have all these amazing astrologers, and a lot was talked about these different transits. And so that's why I really want to bring in the power of Venus. And, if you want to specifically hear more about the Saturn in Pisces, Emily Trinkus is doing a class on Saturday. Total shout out, highly recommend it. So we're going to go in here to what most people don't know. And my theory is that the Venus cycle, syncing with Venus, what I call the solar feminine, is key to the age of Aquarius, is key to choosing the positive timeline in the age of Aquarius. So these are dates that most astrologers aren't tracking. And I wanted you to have them because it's such a powerful time, and it's going to get more intense, as all the astrologers have been saying. And it's that idea of something being crucial. It's really it's like the energy around resolving a crisis. And I found it interesting that the root of that word crucial actually connects to the cross. And we can see in our Venus sign here that, she actually makes a cross. She actually makes this symbol of the human head and the arms and the body. She really has this sense of the cross. And so I wanted to start out, talking about the body, and we're going to get into the head. We're going to weave between the head and the heart. But I want to invite you to do something kind of unusual. I want to invite you to stand up wherever you are. And I want to invite you to stand with your arms out as a cross, feet together. And breathe and come into your body and just hang out in this cross position for a moment. If you want to play, if you want to get experimental here. And bring your attention inside your body. So often our attention is out in front of us. We're looking into the computer, we're leaning forward. So I want you to pull your attention back inside your body into the midline, which is that space right in front of your spine, and put your arms out and just see what happens in your soma, in your body when you do that. You want to play? Will you play with me? And to just breathe without having that to be, any particular way, but becoming aware of your breath and allowing your breath to bring you deeper inside. And notice where your energy focuses when you stand like this. As you bring your attention inside your body, does it naturally go to the resolution of the cross, the meeting point of the horizontal and vertical line? Where is that? What happens when you put your attention on the space of your heart? Can you feel that? Can you feel that awakening? When you put attention there, can you feel that warmth, that spark, that ignition? And then, this gets a little tiring. So feel free to drop your arms, shake it off. And if you have any comments about that, I'd be curious to see, because this symbol of the cross obviously has been incredibly important for humans making meaning over time. It's connected with Christianity. It's connected with, ancient Egypt. It's clearly in the sign of Venus. And I feel like there's this way that this heart wisdom, this space within us, that is the intersection of these two places, it is the most integrative place in our being. And it can really hold us during this time as things get more intense. And so that's the body part of this. There's the head part and the dates, but we don't transform through information. That's not where, information has become cheap. My goodness, in 6 months, the open AI, chat GDP, whatever, can probably tell you everything I'm telling you now about the Venus cycle. It's going to just suck it all up. It's going to suck up everyone's, everything, and put it out there as information. Information is not going to be what gets us through. And yet it can be helpful. It can be supportive, and so when our head knowing is held within our heart, we really are able to come from this deeper place. And so, I'm proposing that syncing with Venus and understanding the cycle can really assist us to decondition, to release our old identities, and to follow the thread of our evolutionary awakening, to really come here, show up as beings of love. Venus personally shows us our unique frequency of love. It's different for each of us, adds a little bit different of quality for each of us, as well as what is our purpose? What are we here to do at this time? So I want to read a quick quote from Krishnamurti in his book, Freedom from the Known, because there is something so powerful in information and knowledge, and there's something so powerful in not knowing, which is what this process, this heroine's journey of syncing with Venus and understanding the mechanics of her cycle, for sure, we do need that, but then really inviting the magic of what she as this celestial being is inviting us to know within ourselves, because she's very personal. So the other planets, Pluto and Saturn, and Saturn's a little closer in, Eris, they're all amazing, and they're all actors, and they're all part of the transformation. But Venus is personal. She's very, very personal. So if you believe that part of what's needed right now is for us to do our own personal awakening and personal transformation, well, then, this is for you, because this is as personal as it gets. She's the closest planet to the Earth. So Krishnamurti writes, it is one of the most difficult things in the world to look at anything simply because our minds are very complex and we have lost the quality of simplicity. I don't mean simplicity in clothes or food, wearing only a loincloth or breaking a record, fasting, or any of that immature nonsense the saints cultivate, but the simplicity that can look directly at things without fear, that can look at ourselves as we actually are without any distortion. To say when we lie, not cover it up and run away from it. Also, in order to understand ourselves, we need a great deal of humility. If you start by saying, I know myself, you have already stopped learning about yourself. Or if you say, there's nothing much to learn about myself because I'm just a bundle of memories, ideas, experiences, and traditions, then you have also stopped learning about yourself. The moment you have achieved anything, you cease to have the quality of innocence and humility. The moment you have a conclusion or start examining from knowledge, you are finished, for then you are translating every living thing in terms of the old. Whereas if you have no foothold, if there is no certainty, no achievement, there is freedom to look, to achieve. And when you look with freedom, it is always new. A confident human is a dead human being. So he goes on, but I think that's a great quote to open up this space of what, what's the big deal about Venus? Because in order to give you these dates, I need to share with you a bit about the mechanics, but I wanted to bring in the power of this not knowing, the freedom from known, J. Krishnamurti, right? Beautiful quote there. So if you want to decondition from your history, the way that you keep time is going to either support you in doing that or hold you to your history. And so this is a big move here. This is a bold move here. It's a radical move to enter into what Venus wisdom is proposing, is that when we sync with Venus, we're working with the cycle of Venus and the sun. So we're really, in some ways, reconstructing the hierarchy that we've all been taught of the sun and the moon. And the moon is a part of the cycle, but the moon is not, it's not excluding Venus. It's not excluding this other element, which is so much a part of human history. And the song that I played at the beginning, Harmonize, has to do with Venus and the principles of nature. So, crucial astro dates of 2023 for women on a sacred mission, is really about understanding what are the dates that you haven't been told about that you can begin to work with these energies and call in those energies that will support you in being more of who you are by first not knowing. So something you can do so easy is just to simply say, we have these amazing minds and we get to, direct them in any way, but to say, I'm choosing not to know. And to allow that to drop you into your heart wisdom. And that's more of the magic. And then we can get more into the dates. Okay, so how are we going to use these dates? Are we going to use the dates to predict, to anticipate, to, sit there and give our power away to some future event? Are we going to use these dates in an empowered way to know what the energies are that are coming and help us to meet our moment and to have more intimacy with who we are and really ride the waves of change as we move through this incredibly turbulent time that I think in 6 months looking back, we're going to be like, whoa, we couldn't even know. So again, that word crucial, not to be in fear, but to be empowered with what we're moving through. So we're living through the end of the dominator consciousness that has informed life on this planet since our oldest stories. Sorry, I gotta move my Zoom here because it's covering. The age of Aquarius has the potential to liberate humanity or end our evolutionary arc. We stand at a crossroads. What we choose now is crucial. Will we create a new paradigm based on care and connection for each other in harmony with nature, the natural world? Or will we allow a more destructive version of the dominator culture to control us through disconnecting us from our bodies and the natural world through AI and more mechanization and tyranny and all of these things that came up in our summit? So Venus, as the feminine principle, is connected to the sun through her synodic cycle, empowers us to live from our deepest heart wisdom, bridging the dying world and the new paradigm not yet born to create this positive timeline in the age of Aquarius. Yes, I love this image. This is Cosmic Collage. I highly recommend you to follow her on Instagram or all the channels. She's amazing. She does these incredible images. So I want to speak for a moment about what is the feminine. And I think this is a great quote. It feels like a part of the age of Aquarius is a rebalancing of the masculine and the feminine. So she writes, when I say the feminine, I don't mean gender. I mean the feminine principle that is living or suppressed in both men and women. The feminine principle attempts to relate. Instead of breaking things off into parts, it says, where are we alike? How can we connect? The feminine is difficult to talk about because so few people have experienced it. The feminine is presence and relatedness and a heart that can open so that when you meet another person, you could actually, you actually are seeing that other person's authentic self. I love that definition so much. Okay, so I will get to that, Louisa. Do not worry. We will get to the Venus-Moon conjunction. I'm just going to guide you in a little bit here from the big picture into the micro. Oops. So the Venus cycle, I just want you to behold this for a moment because I love this picture. This was in 2012, the last time that Venus visibly crossed the face of the sun. So that's Venus. She eclipsed the sun, but she's not going to look the same when the moon eclipses the sun because the proportion is not the same. So, wow, there it is. This is that moment when Venus and sun come together. And in 2004 and 2012, because of the angle, we can see that from Earth. So this is what some indigenous cultures called the birth of the female nation, the rise of the solar feminine. I've shared stories about that, but there was this big shift in 2012 in the summer when this happened, especially in the Maya lands, which are very connected to the Venus cycle. So I don't think that there's an accident there. And I had a powerful experience that was really about me breaking free from what I had been creating in my life, trying to work within other people's structures to bring my gifts. And at that time I was a teacher and I watched this event with my young students at this Montessori school. And I realized that I needed to go out on my own and really work for myself and bring this medicine of astrology that I had been studying for so long. So this was in June of 2012. Yeah, I believe it was June 6th. And so if you saw it, amazing. If you didn't see it, it's still in the field. It's still rippling, in that this 2012 cycle really opened up the culture change that echoed again in 2020. In June of 2020, we had the next point of the cycle. So the energy of this picture in 2012 was when they met in the sign of Gemini. So Venus and the sun in this picture are in the sign of Gemini. And so that Gemini energy is the theme for the whole 19-month cycle, because they have a 19-month cycle before they come back to this position again, and then they meet in another sign. And so every 19 months they're meeting in a sign, and it's really giving us this energetic invitation to learn about that mystery of the feminine, because here we have the feminine Venus in relationship to the sun. reflecting back to Earth. Venus is the Earth's sister. She's like a good friend. She's like that good friend who will tell it like it is in a loving way. She reflects us back to ourself. She's often called the sister planet of Earth and very similar in size. And, she really has this effect in my personal life of helping me to be more of my authentic self. What he was saying in that quote, if you're lying, just admit it. Just openly see what you're doing. And that will help you to become authentic very quickly without making it a problem or beating yourself up. Like just being willing to have that openness to be like, oh yeah, I'm doing that. That's how we shed the patterns very quickly. So she is an incredible ally, not as a concept, but as a being in the sky. She's in the sky right now, of course, in the evening sky. And I hope you get out to see her. And if you haven't, and really take the teachings of today into that experience of looking at her and really allowing this relationship between the light that she's reflecting from the sun into your own body, into your own eyes. So here we have it, this Gemini cycle. Gemini is very much about, as we know, as an air sign, and we have this increase in air signs, which is so much that is crucial right now, is that we have the age of Aquarius that's coming in slowly but surely, or, different ideas about when that starts. And then we have, all of these themes coming in that are about air. And so the Gemini is, in 2004 and 2012, it's very interesting to see what happened with social media. It was completely transformative. 2004, it came in to the year, and then 2012, pretty much everyone was on social media. So the whole way that we communicated, related, absolutely changed. And so Venus is there, in my view, imploring us to remember our humanity in those platforms, in this rapid speed, the way that air moves, to remember to connect, to remember the heart, to remember to stay in our bodies, because it's only going to move very, very quickly now. And we'll talk more about that in her cycles. So every 8 years, she'll repeat and she'll meet with the sun in the same sign. As it's a repeating pattern. So in 2020 was the watershed moment of this huge push for global agenda. And it's very interesting to see that what happens in that air of the Gemini, in that concept, in the language, in the information, really gets grounded in the next cycle, which is the Capricorn cycle, which for us started in January 8th of 2022. And we're still in that Capricorn cycle. So it's like the ideas and the culture change then get grounded and fortified in the Capricorn cycle. So quick tour here, concept of the 19-month cycle. I think about it as a book, and it's a book that is an invitation to become a heroine. And not everyone hears the call, not everyone says yes to the call, but again, that sign where Venus and the sun meet is the seed of the story, and it infuses the entire 19 cycle. And it's like that becomes this overarching energy that is teaching us, and the theme that's teaching us. And that's the, I call it here the grandmother energy, but actually think of it more as the mother energy of what is the theme of this book. And the book is divided into 2 parts, in 19 months, 2 9.5-month sections. It's really like part 1 and part 2 of the book. And so each new Venus portal, we're at a new Venus portal today, Venus and the moon are meeting up today in Aries, is like a next chapter within the book. And then every time Venus changes sign, it's like we're on this adventure and we're learning from the sky story in every turn of her journey, both the journey through the 19-month cycle and then Venus's journey through the zodiacal heroine's journey, which today we're starting a new sign, Aries. And that's going to bring us all the way into the next cycle, which is going to change this summer. So I think I kind of talked about more of this. I founded Venus Wisdom in 2012. I just want to say, what I'm doing is pretty unique, and it's taken me 10.5 years to develop this from my direct experience. So I'm not channeling past people. I mean, I know some people are working with Venus and they're, recalling past lives and Mary Magdalene. And, I think there's a lot of amazing inspiration out there. This is very grounded in my direct experience of both understanding the mechanics of Venus, as well, as how in that 19-month cycle, we were born in a 19-month cycle, and all of those layers of meaning are encoded in us. And I would say that that is our unique frequency of love that we're being invited to embody in this lifetime. And so that moment we're born contains all of those layers. I call it the Venus avatar, the 5 dimensions of our feminine design. So all of that is encoded within us. And then we learn how to sync with Venus and to be in this new way, this cyclical time that is evolutionary. And it's not holding us to those same conditioned patterns that we have. It's liberating us. And that's the mechanics of it, is learning that. The magic of it is really embodiment practices, going out and seeing Venus. There's no map needed for that. We can just drop in and feel like we just did and really connect with our inner intelligence, our feminine intelligence. And one of my inspirations for the Venus and Capricorn cycle is Kasia Urbaniak, who wrote the book Unbound about women and power, very Venus and Capricorn vibes. And she talks about the feminine as being attention in. And I think that's one of the most useful definitions of the feminine, is when we have our attention in. We all have it. It's interior attention. What are we feeling? What are our sensations? What's happening in there? And then attention out is Mars and masculine. And then Mercury is switching, going between the two, deciding, working with our mind to direct where our attention is at, which we have the power to do. Mercury is like the non-binary character. So this is a unique and original way of working with Venus and the Venus cycle. And at the end, I am going to share, if those of you that feel called and want to work with me more closely, I'm going to share some opportunities to do that. There are different ways of doing it. And does anybody want to put Kasia's book in there? Who knows it? I will type it at the end. Remind me. It's an awesome book, and we've been reading it in the private journey that we've been doing with Venus Wisdom. The heroines that are in that private journey, intimate journey, really deepening. So it's Unbound, Kasia Urbaniak. Yes, excellent. And so many resources. So I will share, an opportunity to how you can work with me and how that might be different than working with other people. This is really the power of us becoming initiated, and especially in this Venus and Capricorn cycle, becoming mature, potent women. We're all being called to become our wisest selves right now. That's what Capricorn is about, and to hold the future, to hold the social responsibility for the generations to come. Really, really important. Oh, Louise, we will definitely get there. If you haven't signed up for the Venus guide, and maybe Danette, you could drop that link now, that's going to get you started on I always start with the Venus sign, because that is the most accessible, and then we can move there, and then we can find out all these other layers. So if you can drop the link for the Venus guide, for those that don't have it, for those of you that do have it, I hope you love it. I loved making it. But let's get into some dates. Okay, so let's honor the head and the heart and the body and all of it. Okay, so We are in between two cycles. We're not in between two cycles. We're at the ending of one cycle that will take us all the way through August 13th of 2023. And we're going to begin a new cycle August 13th that will take us all the way through March of 2025. This is really important. And oftentimes astrologers are going to talk about the Venus retrograde that's going to happen, but not necessarily the entire 19 months as a continuous important theme. And so I want to attune you to that. I want to drop you into that. And some of the backstories of the dates, I've named some of them. I just want to name some other crucial dates because they're in the field, they're in the backstory. I already talked about this one, which is Venus visibly crossing the face of the sun. And, you know, that's a very powerful event to have happen in our lifetime. And, you know, the other nod I want to make here around this, I was looking at the different cycles, is that the next cycle is going to take us, the next Venus and Gemini cycle. So Gemini is the beginning of, you know, this, these different signs that she moves through. So I'll show you the different star points. She actually is going to make a star point over 8 years. She goes through every single star point. And so we started a new 8-year cycle, June 2020, in this Venus and Gemini cycle. So she crossed the face of the sun in 2012 for the last time in her lifetime. And then she started this 8-year cycle in 2020. The whole world changed in that time. Of course, we had all of those conjunctions in Capricorn. There was a lot of big stuff happening, but as far as the culture change that happened and the information and the disruption, I feel like, you know, she's offering us a solution around a lot of what is breaking down. And so the next Venus and Gemini cycle is going to start June 2028 because they happen every 8 years. Now, if you have been following, you know, the different agendas, that's going to bring us right into 2030. So we're right now in a Capricorn cycle because it goes from Gemini to Capricorn. So, you know, the Gemini cycle ended January 8th, and then we started the Capricorn cycle that we're in now. So obviously we're going Gemini, Capricorn, then we're going to start talking about the Leo. So, you know, if this is a lot for you, just encourage you to, if you're excited and you're inspired, connect with Venus Wisdom. I share a lot around this, but I feel like this is important to know because, you know, we've been reading about Agenda 30, which is another redux of Agenda 21. And so this is the global agenda that sounds so groovy. When I first read about Agenda 21, I was in this very progressive college and I was like, wow, UN Agenda 21, this sounds amazing. It's all about sustainability and ending poverty and empowering girls and women. I was like, why aren't we doing this? This is, you know, amazing. Before I knew what was actually behind that is actually the opposite. You know, it's about world control. And of course, you'll own nothing and be happy that whole trip. So it feels like it's really important that these, you know, Gemini cycles that are about that culture change and, you know, connecting with this heart wisdom so we can discern between misinformation and the truth. You know, Gemini asks, what is the truth? It could be this, it could be that, could be anything. You know, Gemini has the shadow side of dishonesty because it is so in the gray area. So it's like driving us into that place within us where we know the truth. And then in Capricorn, we own our inner authority so that we're not subject to external authority that tries to get us to do something that's not good for us. So these are important larger Venus cycles. Uranus being in Taurus, which Venus rules Taurus, is really about this revolution of the feminine. That's why, one of the reasons why Venus is so important right now and the Venus cycle. So that started in 2019, will go all the way to 2026. And that revolutionary energy of Uranus is saying, get in your bodies. The revolution is in your bodies, in the organic, in the natural, that technology, Uranus, in this most slowed down, dense sign, earth sign of Taurus, is, the potential for transhumanism is right there. And yeah, we don't need, human women anymore. Now there's going to be these, birthing labs, just like in the movie The Matrix, that's already happening. And so there's something about the spirit of revolution through the natural, through claiming the embodiment, through staying in that kind of, the power of our humanity, and really owning that. The power of being connected to the earth, and all of these agendas trying to pull us away from that. Now, for a specific date for that I would definitely have on your calendar coming right up, is July 26th of 2023, because the North Node, which is our collective evolution, is finishing up its time in Taurus. So our North Node has been in Taurus during this last Venus cycle. Uranus has been in Taurus, and they're going to actually meet up on July 26, 2023, which is going to be a fantastic activation for our own purpose towards this embodiment and a manifestation from that feminine place within our being. Yeah, totally. And that correlates with some of the, the Leonine energy of the, the Lion's Gate as well. So yeah, and the new Mayan calendar. Yeah. So that's going to be very, very powerful. So there's all these different calendars, and one of them, does start on, I believe it is July 26th, or is that the day out of time? I'm not remembering in this moment, but that, would be something I would mark for, a lot of this date planning is when to tuck in, when to nourish, and when to be external, when to have that energy out and to be putting ourselves forth in the world, and that ebb and that flow. So depending on where that is in your chart, but personally, that would be a very good day to do something amazing for your body, to nourish your body, to do something that really supports you and fortifies you. So the other background energy that I want to mention is, Chiron is in Aries, which is that the sign of called the wounded healer, but really the astrologer, the holistic healer. Chiron is so empowered, but had this wound that wouldn't heal. And a lot of that really was what stimulated Chiron to bring forth the brilliance. And so there is a way that story correlates with this time of, us dreamers, us visionaries, us artists. We're like, oh, it could so be a different way. We can almost taste it, how the world could be. And yet it's going this other direction. And it's so limiting, and it's so dampening of creativity, and, extinguishing that spark that we come in with. And so there's something about this Chiron and Aries time to reclaim and heal that sense of our sacred masculine that can act from that spark, act from our heart's wisdom. And so that's from 2018 to 2027. So that's in the background, and that's really important, because the Uranus in Taurus, Venus, Chiron and Aries is ruled by Mars. There's all these reverberations that are about the healing of the masculine and the feminine within us. That might be called the sacred marriage. Many, many different spiritual traditions are about that. So, and I'm kind of going out of order here, but Venus and Mars in 2022 started a new 32-year cycle at 16 degrees Capricorn on February 16th, 2022. And that's really important because it's a 32-year cycle. They have their own cycle together, which just really emphasize that union in the sign of Capricorn, which is the cycle that we're in now. When I show you the map, Venus and the sun met at 18 degrees of Capricorn. So there's this way that there's something about maturing how we relate, how I'm going to need to do a mute here, unless, oh, Danette, I didn't make you co-host. I should have done that while I was looking at you earlier. I was like, oh, there we go. I can mute all. Okay. So there's a bit of sobriety in Capricorn. It's like, it's time to grow up. It's time to commit. It's time to knit back together. And of course, that's one way that the dominator culture has really gotten to us, is through destroying the family, destroying the sense of bonding that happens between humans. And, it has many, many implications in the generations that are growing up now, and all the broken homes and all of it. So there's something about this coming together in partnership, in commitment, that feels like it's really emphasized by that. And that's still rippling, because that's a 32-year cycle. Okay, so, and I will get, you could definitely take a screenshot of this. Does everybody know how to take a screenshot? I would encourage it. And I can send this out with the replay as well, because I know it's a lot to take in with the head. So obviously the big drum roll is that Pluto's going into Aquarius in this current Venus and Capricorn cycle. And this is a huge leap of moving into the age of Aquarius. Jupiter and Saturn met at 0 degrees Aquarius, solstice of 2020. And that was, starting a 20-year cycle in their relationship. And was that 2020 or was that 2021? I'm totally getting the dates. The dates are starting to fuzz because I didn't have it written here. But, we're seeing all of these different layers of this Aquarian energy opening, which is about community genius, collective genius. In its positive manifestation, it's about humanity retaining the spark, the Leonine spark. Leo is the opposite sign of Aquarius, and coming into community and bringing that unique gift. And so, oh, thank you, Monica, for putting that in the note about the galactic new year is the 26th. So very powerful. Great. All these dates. It's so great to see all the different layers of this. So this is really significant, and we could do a whole class on this, of course. So we will be digging more into Pluto, into Aquarius, with a lot of astrologers are talking about this. But with Venus, being the golden key to the age of Aquarius, this is important because Venus was in the same sign as Pluto for this whole Capricorn cycle. So Pluto has been at the tail end of Capricorn. Venus met up with Pluto a couple times in the end of the Venus and Gemini cycle, and at the very beginning of the Venus and Capricorn cycle. So this Venus and Capricorn cycle took us to the bone, It certainly did me, and Venus wisdom itself. Like, so much fell away that, really invites this rebirth, this sense of rebirth, and really bringing it down to what is essential, what is important. It's like there's no fooling around anymore. It's got to have that depth and that substance to move forward. And of course, Venus met Pluto again when she was in Capricorn, just what was that, 2 months ago, as she was moving through. So Pluto's been very potent. It has potentized this current cycle in bringing that energy of the crucial. Like, are we going to live from our authentic selves, or are we going to keep the mask on, try to have security? There's no security. Uranus and Taurus is like, there's no security. Find your security in the unknown, in the space within you that doesn't need security. That's the new security, in that ability to be in our true self, in our heart, in our inner knowing, no matter what's happening in the external world, which again, a lot of spiritual traditions have taught this and pointed to that ability. And so now in this next cycle, Venus is going to go meet the sun in the sign of Leo, very much a reverberation of solar feminine because Leo is connected to the sun. And so now Venus is going to be in the sign opposite to Pluto. So Pluto is going into Aquarius and is going to really show, Pluto always relentlessly reveals the shadow. That's what Pluto does so well. So really show the shadow of the technology, the shadow of the AI, the shadow of how that could just be another way to control the beauty of humanity, to degrade humanity, to make humanity the less than, like, here, just get this chip, you're going to be so much better. So Pluto is going to show us all that. And Venus is starting this cycle in the opposite sign, which is about Leo, the heart, the children, the sense of play, the love of life. And of course, that's going to reverberate for the entire 19 months. So it's a very different vibe. It's not in the same sign like they were in the Capricorn. Now they're in opposition. And so again, Venus is offering this, holding out this opportunity for us to be in that Leo energy. Emily Trinkus actually did an amazing class on the Leo and Aquarius opposition and that polarity as we move into the age of Aquarius. I don't know, it was one of the bonuses in the summit. I don't know if she'll share it again, but it really brought to mind the importance of the Leo energy as we go into Aquarius, where it could get really, really cold and dehumanizing. We need that spark. We need the fire. When I pulled cards this morning, the lions were coming in and all of my cards and in my cat. And it was just like, Leo, 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 Leo. It's not here yet, but, Leo is the next fire sign that Venus will move through, in this cycle. So it's like the fire is reminding us as we go, through those synchronicities and those ways that the magic comes in. Oops, sorry. So the other thing that's happening that's a bigger picture before we get into the map is that, the North Node is shifting. So it was that the North Node was in Taurus, the South Node in Scorpio. Taurus is connected to Venus and Scorpio is connected to Mars. So again, we had that, sacred marriage vibe happening. The South Node is the falling away, the release, and the North Node is the building or the moving towards in Western astrology. That's how it's held. And they're going to switch. So the North Node is going to switch to Aries. So we have another new, anytime Aries is activated, we have a new beginning. And the South Node, error, is going to be in Venus's sign in Libra. And that's going to happen July 12th. So, July is very potent. We're seeing that. Before we come to this moment, August 13th, where this new Leo cycle begins. So we have these really important dates meeting up to that, because then, it's like the work that we did on Mars to have our outer action, our will, our energy, our defense, to have that calibrated to our heart, to protection of what is sacred, to protection of what is, valuable to us. Venus is what we value. What are our values? And, if we love, natural healing, and if we love freedom of choice around our bodies, and if we love sovereignty, and if these are our values, then that Mars part of us can be in action to protect that, to create that boundary when those are being violated. So that's going to be a really important shift too. I know, 2 Mars and Venus cycles back to back. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so not cycles, but rulers. All right, so in this most important, crucial date today, I wanted to just show the chart. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but we can see some of these players that we've been talking about, and we have, these dynamics where these outer planets are definitely of influence. And yet the closer in we get, the more personal it gets. So we have here Pluto in that final degree of Capricorn. We have, rebel Eris, new dwarf planet. She got Pluto demoted. I love, Heather Ensworth inspired us all to start thinking of her as Xena. She's here in Aries, and we have this incredible lineup in Aries, including Juno, which is sacred partnership, including Chiron. We talked about the wounded healer, but really like the blessing in the wound, not just the wound, what did they say? The chip, the wound is where the light comes in, or, that idea, it's like the beauty way. Cause sometimes we can be impervious. Like if something, it is through our suffering that our hearts break open into more love. And so Chiron is holding that space for us into more vitality, more of this energy of Aries. And Jupiter's coming into a conjunction with Chiron. So wherever Jupiter goes, Jupiter expands. So soon we're going to have that activation of that expansion of this place within us that, we may have felt impotent. We may have felt like we couldn't protect, we couldn't be angry, we couldn't be vital, we couldn't be alive. And we're really getting to heal that and take up all of the space of who we are and own more of our vitality through being willing to feel more of our feelings, not in reaction, but in that purity, and I see Venus as being our pure, authentic feelings in the present time without the story. The moon is more the story, and the story is important because we're rewriting the story. But when we make the moon the most important, which we do at new moon and full moon, we're really just, highlighting the moon. I feel, and I've found in this 11 years that it ties us to our history. It ties us to the story that goes with the feeling, the emotion. So there's the feeling, and then there's a story of like, I'm mad at you because, instead of the purity of the anger moving through us, revitalizing us. And we get to transmute that because we are battery chargers. Humans are, we're incredibly powerful beings. And if we don't claim all of our energy, if we reject it and go, oh, I don't want to be angry, I want to be a spiritual person, I'm definitely not going to be angry. If we don't use our energy, there are other forces on the planet that are happy to use our energy. They're happy. And it is through those reactions, which, so much of the manipulation right now is to provoke us to react. And all of that is precious energy. And, and that does happen more in connection with the peak of the moon cycle. That's when we tend to get more emotional. There's nothing the matter with that. It's just like we can bring it back a layer. We don't have to go into the story and giving it away and solidifying our identity. We can use all of that energy and transmute it. And that is what Venus is teaching us. Our direct experience of what is happening is sacred. And we can claim that. So Jupiter's there, and Vesta, which connects back to the sacred tenders of the fire, and that spark of aliveness, that spark of inspiration, that spark of human genius, and the sacred, traditions of the female priestesses that long ago were, had a very special role in the culture. We think, now I'm starting to question all history and in what it actually is, but, Vesta is definitely about that kind of the sacred relational and being whole unto ourselves and being in devotion to, what is sacred to us. And so all of these are embedded and into this moment where Venus and the moon meet at the 2 degrees of Aries. in this new sign, which is interesting because 2 is the high priestess in Tarot, the number 2. So they're meeting at this first sign and opening up this whole next journey. Now will be all the way through Pisces over the next year. And so at that portal, new moons are more a time of setting intentions and thinking about what we want to create. New Venus portals are more about dropping in, feeling what is alive for us, what is true for us, having the courage to really be in the truth of what we're feeling, what we're wanting, but not in an intellectual way so much, in an embodied way. If you want to play with this, Venus will totally support you. I highly encourage you to make a practice to go out and watch her, and especially at these portals when she's with the moon. I mean, last night was just exquisite. We had such cold weather here and such a clear sky. You could really see the light of the moon and the shadow, and of course, Jupiter shining above. The moon was in Pisces then. Tonight, she'll be in Aries, and she'll be a bit higher than Venus if you saw the image of the 3 days. So I really consider, the new Venus portal in the evening star time happens after the new moon. In the morning star, it happens before the new moon. They switch. But in the evening star time, she's in her evening star phase now. We can see her in the west after sunset. It's really... it opens when the visual happens, when we can see the moon, and then it's like a couple few days of energetic time to really align with our bodies, do our body practices, take care of ourselves, and drop in and feel what's true and feel what's real. And we can certainly be contemplating and considering the energy of Aries and how is that showing up, or whatever the sign energy is on that portal. What are the new beginnings that want to come forward? Where's that fire? And be in the contemplation of that, and then also really be in the direct experience and create some time out in nature, feet on the earth if it's not too cold. But out under the sky, really taking this time and marking it and committing to it and allowing yourself to have it. So, it's interesting because I'm seeing so many pictures on Facebook of the Venus and the moon meet up in Aries. Well, it was in Pisces yesterday, but everyone's like, wow, this is amazing. And I think it's so interesting because wherever Jupiter goes, Jupiter makes things bigger, and everyone's noticing. It happens every month, but everyone's noticing, particularly this month. I was like, okay. And of course, Jupiter's there, so that's also awe-inspiring. But there's that expansive energy in this portal, and there's that opportunity to start again, to be in that original innocence. If you got the Venus guide and you got to see that energy of Aries, there's really something so innocent. There's something so powerful about the ability to begin again. If we truly, receive the energy of the Pisces, and we forgive and we let go and we surrender and we let it go, whatever we're carrying that does not serve us, then we get this opportunity in Aries to begin again. That is a superpower. Not carrying the baggage, it doesn't mean that there's not unresolved issues in our life, but at a basic level, we get to show up with that openness, show up with that, I don't know, what's next, what's happening. So this is one way of looking at the sky story. And here's the Uranus in Taurus and the North Node in Taurus. And, we talked about them coming together. We have Mars here in Gemini. And so I want to show you another way of looking at the astrology, which incorporates more of the living sky. So I'm so ready to begin again. Let's just take a breath into that. Yeah. Cheers to beginning again. Oh, wow. Adrian, you have Pluto on your sun. Oh, we got to talk. Woo, it's so intense. I feel for you. I have Pluto squaring my ascendant and my Mars. And, I feel like I was uniquely initiated because I've had Pluto, because Pluto was in my 12th house at the very last degree of Virgo when I was born. And a lot of my personal planets are in the first quadrant, the first 3 houses. Pluto has gone over my ascendant, every single one of my personal planets, my ascendant, no, all the way, my whole life. So I've had a very Plutonian life. And I feel like that is what has, uniquely prepared me to be a guide into, what I call Venus wisdom. And it was by accident. I'm super distracted. My goodness, staying with something for 11 years. But it was like through the thick and the thin, through the trials and tribulations, especially as a mother, especially as someone who grew up in a very unhealthy family, as most of us did, and had to really sort out what are healthy relationships? How do I create those? How do I not perpetuate the patterns of my parents on my own child? How do I do this differently? Where do I get those skills? It's such a huge, it's such a huge blessing to be the pattern breaker. To be the ones in our family line that's really like, I'm going to do this differently. And I do think Pluto helps. Courtney also has Pluto squaring your ascendant. I so feel you. And your IC, yeah, that's deep. Pluto on the ICs, that's the deepest, right? Okay, so it's no wonder that you're here, right? So if everything was going perfectly in your life, you might not want to take time out. You might not want to take 2 hours out to come do this. So again, it's like through that crucible, through that pressure. And I thought it was really interesting because, I thought that crucial and crucible would be, the etymology would be similar. They're actually not. So, crucial has the resolving of a crisis, and it has that imperative energy, and then the cross, which is interesting. But then crucible is actually connected back to an earthen vessel that can withstand very high heat. Because I often talk about this time as being a crucible. We're in this pot, we're getting cooked, it's like we're getting transformed one way or the other. And how do we work with that energy, that pressure, that intensity to awaken to the truth of who we are? And that's been a quest my entire life. And that's why, I was raised in a spiritual community that, believe it or not, was called the Emissaries of Divine Light. I was basically told from a very young age, we're the ones that know, we're here to save the world, we're the spiritual beings. And I got to see a lot of shadow in that. I got to see the shadow of the love and light big time, the power abuse, all of it, the sexual abuse. Luckily, I wasn't in the line of fire of that, but it was going on everywhere, just these issues of power, which is Pluto. Pluto is asking us, I think, especially in this cycle, to be very responsible about how we use our power, to make sure that our power is wedded with love, and that we're not using power over in our own lives, right? Because that's often how it works in dysfunctional cultures where, we're oppressed, and then we might then, or, the system is oppressive, the system is extractive, and then, we might find ways that we're acting that out. We've taken on the dominator inside of us. So I feel like Pluto is really purifying us and really calling us to task, and especially women. And, especially it's like so interesting with the internet. Let's see, what's my next slide? I was going to do a moon thing. Okay. I feel like there's a lot of lack of integrity, and Pluto wants us to clean that up. It's interesting because because I've been the mother of this work, this body of work, I've invented a lot of terms to make meaning, like the new Venus portal. And, and now I'm starting to see other people use those terms, and they haven't studied with me, and they haven't really received the transmission fully. And so I just find it interesting because that's part of that internet thing where it's like right there, and people are, kind of taking a little bit or sipping or shopping or, conglomerating everything. And that's like, there's something about the wisdom of showing up to something year after year. I never aspired to teach on the Venus cycle. That was not what I planned to do, but it just kept knocking. And it really helped me not just get through my trials and tribulations, but come out shining, come out feeling like I was really discovering something, and that I actually couldn't do it alone. I want to say this piece looking at you, that it's not mine, it's not me, but I'm holding a field. So if you're interested in this, if you're like, whoa, what is this Venus wisdom? I'm holding a field to give each woman enough of the map that she can understand where that lives in her, and then show up, teach me who you are through your expression, through your authenticity. And so we show up, and this is how I started in my little office in Sebastopol, tiny little office, teaching the Venus cycle. And then each woman would represent, like, what does Venus and Aries feel and look like? And then those different start points and those different phases. And so I'm holding this space for this collective wisdom. But when women come in and they just kind of take some content and go, oh yeah, that's good, and then they go out of the field and then they're off teaching it or running with it, it's like the energy exchange isn't really an integrity. It's like, how do we come into a field together and share the wisdom of the emerging feminine in all of her different facets and all of her different faces? Because I will never be able to know, what I call the Venus avatar or the feminine design of you the way that I know mine. I've been deep in mine as like Scorpio, bold morning star, deep Scorpio, like keep pioneering, keep transforming. And so I feel like this is something that each of us are called to do. And this is going to be the book, is that each of, the women who come forth when the book comes will be able to provide that wisdom of what it is like inside of us. What is the sacred medicine that you have to share at this time? And we're each bringing that forth through our unique embodiment of love, through our unique frequency. Because no matter what happens as the old world falls away, being in contact with our own frequency is the protection, and it becomes less and less important. It's not like our lives are going to suddenly get nice and orderly and neat necessarily. That might happen, may it happen for those that, but it's like the chaos is here. And as we learn to really orient to our own frequency through this work, we become more resilient, and we're just badass. We're just showing up no matter what, knowing what we need to do. It's like, okay, that's falling apart and that's falling apart and that system's not working, but here I am in the truth of who I am. And it's through that frequency that I feel like a lot of the change will happen. Okay. I'm just proselytizing a tiny bit there, and I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Got a little Sagittarius sun coming out. All right, I want to get into the Venus cycle. Of course, take care of yourself if you need to go to the bathroom or anything like that. Yeah, being in our own frequency is our protection. It's our protection. It's our instructions. It's our directive. We don't have control over what's happening in the world. And I would say in the next year, we can't even imagine how things are going to crumble and rearrange. And we can keep coming back to that frequency. It's like, it can really sustain us and energize us and guide us to be right where we need to be with the people that we need to be with. Okay, can you see those again? I just shared again. All right, looking at the notes just to get a confirmation that you can see that. Okay. You can see the slide, yeah? Okay, perfect. All right, so super quick. We're all pretty familiar. I mean, I oriented to the moon for decades, and the ancient goddess, traditions, the lunar feminine, Ryan Eisler's work, Maria Gambuta's, this whole time period of when the goddesses were honored on this planet. So a lot of us know the cycle, and we know with the sun there and Earth in the middle, the new moon is when the moon is between Earth and sun, and then she goes into first quarter. We can see her filled out halfway. The full moon, she's illuminating the sun, and then she starts to wane to last quarter again halfway. Oops, sorry, trigger finger. And then she comes back to the new moon. So that takes about 29 and a half days. About the Venus cycle takes 19 months, and it's, somewhat similar, except for now the Earth is here and the sun is in the middle. So that's a huge difference. Venus starts her cycle, that picture you saw, closest to, in between the Earth and the sun. So she's closest to the Earth. And then in her morning star, she rises and then she busts it out, goes through about 8 or 9 meetups with the moon every month. Here is the morning star. And then she disappears for 2 to 3 months behind the sun, and then rises. She doesn't really actually rise, but she appears as evening star. She's in the evening sky. She's not in the east, she's in the west. And she moves through this part of the sky, and then she starts again. So we have this, echo of the moon cycle. This is the calendar that I created. You've probably received this if you've been involved with Venus Wisdom at all. And so I want to go over some of these dates because we're halfway through this cycle. And this is a cycle in motion. So this isn't that astrology chart was one day, one moment, the new Venus portal. I actually didn't say the time. It was, I think 1 a.m. something this morning when the moon and Venus met exactly in Aries. But this is a 19-month map. And so there's motion here. So when the cycle starts, number 1 is the energetics that infuse the whole cycle. So Venus met the sun in the star point at 18 degrees of Capricorn. That's the primary star point, the mother energy holding the book. We're in the book of Capricorn. And then these numbers are showing us what's happening in the astronomy. She's rising as the morning star. She reaches her greatest morning brilliance, all of these. So, this is a lot to unpack here, and I encourage you, join the Venus Wisdom Village and, come to more events if you want to learn about all of them. And, what for the purposes of this, what I want to share with you is, she picks up this other star point in what's called the underworld. So when she's invisible from the Earth, and that happened on October 22nd of 2022. And so this Libra energy came in as a subtone. So the overtone is Capricorn, we're in the book of Capricorn, and then part 2 is Libra. And Libra is all about justice. She's connected to Venus, and really brings in this energy of reconciliation for the ways that the feminine has been harmed or degraded. And because it's in the underworld, it's not as strong. When Venus meets when Venus in Libra starts the cycle in Libra, that's going to be in 2030. I have to look, but that's going to be a whole other strength of that justice for the feminine, but it's already come in and we're already starting to see it. Okay, so 8/25 was one of the Venus moon portals. Every single one of these dates is when Venus and the moon meet, like they're meeting today, for their monthly meetup, and they meet at a different degree. And then that becomes a chapter in this 19-month book. So let's fast forward. Here we are, 2/22, 2023, Venus, that's Venus, moon in the sign of Aries, 2 degrees Aries, here we have it. So from February 22nd to March of 24th, just past the equinox, we're in the new Venus portal. And the peak of that Venus portal will happen a few days after the full moon, where moon and Venus will be in opposition to each other. So if you want an alternative, you just want to feel into it and you're like, I'm not ready to let go of the moon. I love the moon, great. I did this for years. I would feel into both. I was like, how do I feel? Being with the energy of the new moon and being with the new Venus portal. And then over time, it just really became more authentic for me to orient to Venus primarily because I wanted the evolutionary effect of that and I could feel the difference. But it's all an experiment and your direct experience is totally valid, whatever it is. So these dates, get this calendar and mark these dates. So we've got March 24th, we've got April 23rd, opening up the new Venus portal in Gemini. And actually I should give an extra nod to the March 24th, because that is Taurus, and that is ruled by Venus, or the guardian of Venus is the guardian of Taurus. So anytime something happens in Libra or Taurus in this Venus wisdom way of holding all the astrology in the container of these 19 months, which is how I look at the astrology. I'm always looking at the 19-month cycle in relationship to Saturn going into Pisces or Pluto going into Aquarius. It's all held in this 19 months. And I truly believe that the ancients knew this. And the more of us that start to do this, the more it will become clear where this cycle can take us, working with the energy, working with the astrology in this way. So extra nod out there to that new Venus portal in Taurus, because it's going to have that Venusian energy. Oh, thank you, Danette. Yay, you can join us on Circle. We got off of, actually, we don't want to join that community. We want to join the Circle community, which I don't think I gave you the link. I should have that for sure. If you just go to the Venus Wisdom Guide and work your way through, you're going to get a few emails because that will give you a link to the platform on Circle. I love your innovation, Danette, and I don't think that that's the Circle link. So new Venus portal peak always on the full moon. No, the new Venus portal in the evening star is 2 or 3 days after the new moon. The peak Venus portal in the evening star is 2 to 3 days after the full moon. So they're going to mirror those same patterns. Okay. In the morning star, it's different. It's before, but in the evening star, it's after. So it's like you get that chance to be with the new moon and experience that. And then a couple of days later, be like, all right, now I'm going to start again, which is interesting too, because in a lot of indigenous, as I've understood it, and I'm not remembering sources off the top of my head, but I think this is from Shamanic Mystery School, if I'm correct. That the new moon wasn't considered the new moon until you could see it, until you could see the sliver in the sky. And that's what happens on the new Venus portal. As you saw last night, it's the sliver. The new moon, as we count it, is invisible still. And so it's kind of interesting, that correlation. You're so welcome. I'm so glad you asked. Okay. So if you want to play the game, I'm starting to call it the Venus Revolution game, then you want to be aware of these portals. The portal's a time when you get that chance to start again, when you get that chance to really drop in deep and go through the whole invitation of the feminine cycle of life, death, and rebirth. You get to claim it again. You get to reset again, just like Venus resets when she comes back to this position, when she's in between the earth and the sun. You get to do that every month in the new Venus portal, that reset between one reality and the next reality. It's that time in between. Okay, so the other dates I want to point here, because we're talking about crucial dates for 2023 for women on a sacred mission, is number 9 is the maximum elongation. So I know I didn't go into the sign of each of these. I encourage you to get the Venus guide, because you can definitely look at every single one of the signs and you're going to get a beautiful transmission for meaning that you can apply to yourself personally, or Venus in the sky, find out where that lives in your chart, all of it. So I hope that sets you up well. So number 9 is maximum elongation. And what that means is she's the furthest distance from the sun in the evening star. Thank you so much, Danette, for putting that in there. And what that means is she's coming into the home stretch of her culmination of her cycle. It's like she's really coming into her sovereignty, because she's the furthest from the sun, and it's like she's internalized the light of the sun. Sun is source, Venus is connection. So it's that place we connect with source within our own body and become that heroine in our life, doing what is ours to do at this incredibly intense time, having the courage to show up and express who we truly are. And so she's internalized that. And by the time we get to that date on June 4th, there's a certain confidence in that independence of being who we are, in interdependence with others. And then that 10th spot, the greatest evening brilliance on July 10th of 2023, it is time to shine. If you've been culminating a project, especially since January of 2022, if you've been working on something, working on an issue, this is the time, this is the peak. This is the celebrate yourself, let it shine, let it flow. Great time to put yourself out in the world, to publish, to launch, to all of it, putting the energy that shares your wisdom coming into that summertime. And then Venus is going to go retrograde on July 22nd. So that's going to be a time to start to recap, reflect, and go back inside. So that period between the greatest brilliance, July 10th and July 22nd, is a prime time for that external energy. And then it's going to turn around and start to come back in and reflect. And I would highly, the retrograde is 40 days. And I would encourage you not to be, as external. See what you can do to tuck it in, reflect, write your content, recalibrate, assess. How did it go? Go on retreat, really bring your energy back inside so you're ready for this next cycle. The Venus and Leo cycle is going to be absolutely incredible. The revolution is on, the feminine revolution is on, and you're going to need all of your energy for that. She is going to disappear as the evening star on 8/8, which is really interesting. We won't be able to see her anymore. And there's kind of a collective experience I've noticed, even if people don't follow Venus, where it's kind of like this, it's like they don't have that light, even if they haven't been tracking it consciously. There's a sense of really time to go internal. We have this time period between, August 8th, and she will then meet the sun on August 13th. So please mark your calendar. Please take that day off. Please don't be trying to do things that aren't, lighting your fire on that day. August 13th, mark it now. Really, really beautiful day for that, honoring yourself. It's like she's going backstage, so in a metaphor, in a story way, it's like she's making love to the sun, having this union, getting her instructions of what she's going to embody in the next 19 months, and she comes out bold and young and, a lot of confidence, not a lot of experience. She has to go through her trials and tribulations. She has to learn, she has to show up, she has to get stripped of who she was to discover more of the truth of who she is. She goes into her deepest initiation in the underworld, secret meeting with the sun, and gives birth to her mature woman, her mature heroine, and then comes out and begins to embody that wisdom and share it with the community through the evening star, culminates shining in her wisdom in her seat. She did it, and then dissolves back into the cosmos as she goes retrograde and goes backstage, has a long bath, has a beautiful meal, you know, has a nap. And then she gets ready for her hot date, her next hot date with the sun, which is going to happen August 13th. Block your schedule now. So please mark your schedule. And then for you, dun, 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 I hadn't started this yet, but I was so excited. It doesn't have all the dates in it yet. This is the first iteration. This is not public. Take a screenshot if you wish to, oh, my little earth is off kilter there. Because I wanted you to have these first new Venus portals in the new cycle. This cycle is going to really bring in the solar feminine energy and that creative, playful, you know, erotic, you know, the eros of doing what we love. I mean, dates are great and all of that, but the eros of fulfilling our sacred mission, that is hot stuff. So the first new Venus portal will be invisible just a couple days after, 3 days after the union on 8/16. And you'll notice that the Venus portals at the end of one cycle will be in the same sign for a couple because she's going retrograde. So she's still in Leo here, which is super great because she's really bringing that Leonine energy in. She always does that at the end of one cycle. That, you know, retrograde really anchors whatever that lesson is. So we're entering the new book of the Venus in Leo mysteries. And we won't get to see that one, probably. And then she is going to, doesn't mean it's not energetically present, but it may not be visible, looks like not. And then she will appear on the 17th of August as the morning star. She's no longer the evening star. So she's switched, she's on the other side of the sun. And then she goes direct on September 4th, 2023. Really important. So this would be a time after she's gone direct. Now your sacred mission goes forward after that 40 days. Now you're starting to move forward as much as you can, tuck in, reset, you know, recalibrate during the retrograde, the more you're going to be supported when she goes forward. And then we have on the September 17th, 2023, actually, well, we have this a second new Venus portal in Leo, yay, on the 11th. So we're really getting the transmission there of the new cycle, the new Leo energy. And then here, number 4 is her maximum brightness, high and bright. She comes out like, comes out as that bold morning star. Okay, so this is the time to receive the transmission of what is the next iteration of my sacred mission for the next 19 months, to be available, to make time for that, make space for that, to be dedicated to that. And then she will have that greatest elongation from the sun. Oops, sorry, if I missed her. October 10th, she has her new Venus portal in Virgo. Very important. She's going to start to refine all of this Leo inspiration, the beauty of that refining, that perfecting that Virgo so beautifully does. We love feminine Virgo energy. And then she's going to meet, thank goodness she had Virgo first. You know, that's going to really help her. She's going to have that maximum elongation in the morning sky. And she's going to really leave home. It's like, yeah, this journey's happening. I'm doing it. I'm going. You know, it's like that young Venus and Leo archetype is actually going on the journey. So she's hearing the call. She's, you know, getting herself together here. And then she goes. She's furthest away from the sun. And then she embarks. And she has these other new Venus portals. The one in Libra is going to be particularly important because it's Libra on November 9th. And then the final one of this year will be a little bit after the December solstice in the depths of Scorpio. And I love, these are in early degrees, whereas for a lot of the Capricorn cycle, you'll notice the new Venus portals were in the later degrees of signs. So that's kind of interesting. You'll start to see all of these patterns that repeat over and over. So just really quick, because I'm going to wrap up pretty soon here with our time, but you can see that this is the pattern of those repeating star points. So as I said, in 2012 and in 2004, she visibly crossed the face of the sun in the sign of Gemini. And then she crossed over and was met the sun in the sign of Capricorn. And these are the dates listed. The white is when she's going direct, which means that's her secret meeting with the sun behind the sun. The retrograde means that is the primary start point, is when she goes through that 40 days of retrograde and really anchors that sign. And so she's doing both. She's going back and forth between each. It's a beautiful harmonic pattern. That's why I played that song at the beginning, Harmonize, really teaching us how to harmonize. And so as far as where we're at now, we are currently in the Capricorn cycle, and that started at 18 degrees on January 8th, 2022. And then the next one is here. It is not at 0 degrees Leo. My apologies. It's at 20 degrees Leo. It's typo. And then the next one will be in Aries. So we're going to go fire, fire. So we're going to go in, from this August 13th, 2023. And then the next one will be Aries in 2025, and then back to Scorpio. And we will have our final Scorpio star point before she shifts into Libra for the duration in 2026. And so you can kind of see that this is how the pattern works. If this is blowing your mind, just let yourself be blown. It takes some time in. And, I love this image. I love this concept. So this 19-month cycle is 2 9.5-month periods, 2 human gestation cycles. And so the morning star is 9.5, the evening star is 9.5. So we get that whole morning star time to really bust forth as our, learning about that mystery school. Then when she meets the sun in the underworld, we get to become the mature woman. We get to birth our mature woman self, and then arise in the evening star. Of course, if you're a man, this still all applies. It's just the way that it shows up in your system is going to be a little bit different. I'm just speaking to women because that's mostly who I work with. But if any men are really into the Venus cycle and want to share their experience, I'm always loving to hear, because it's so, so incredibly powerful. Oh yeah, I totally forgot to mention the virtual tip jar. This event is totally free, as I said, but if you feel inspired to give a tip, I've thought to start to ask for that. It definitely helps support me to do more writing, to produce more materials like the calendar. Danette has put the tip jar in there. Grateful for you. Got on a total riff here. And I think that's it. I feel like there's one more slide. Oh, okay. Let's just look at this really quick, because we're ending this cycle. And what are the themes for the Venus and Capricorn cycle that are going to carry us through the 12th? You can definitely look in your Venus guide and look at the Capricorn there and get some vibes of that. But here, there's really this integrity theme, this embodiment, manifesting, discernment, to really have that inner heart authority and to be in leadership. Capricorn is the leader. Capricorn is mature. Capricorn is, even though sometimes Capricorn gets a bad rap for being, bossy or whatever, that kind of leadership often is very much rooted in sensitivity and care for the community. And so how do we wield our power? How do we share our power? How do we lead from inside our own authority and really work with nature's principles? Capricorn is an earth sign. It's the most active earth sign. It's cardinal earth. And it really connects, a lot with the animal beings on the earth. If you were in the summit and you got the bonuses, Tyler Penor has this incredible mini course he does, and he really talks about the living sky and correlates the different signs with, different actual experiences we can have in nature. And Capricorn is the animals that we experience. And so our relationship with the animal world, and how do we be leaders, in our relations of all kinds really comes into play in Capricorn. And a lot of those kind of the natural hierarchy really comes to mind with Capricorn, because we might think that we're doing our dog a favor by giving them everything they want, but it actually stresses them out. And this is actually a metaphor that Kasha talks about in the book Unbound. It's actually one of her major insights was kind of like what she learned from a dog trainer, and realize that there's a certain balance when we have an authority and we take responsibility. And of course, this applies to children too. And so, we need the boundaries. We need the sacred boundaries. We need to protect. We need to know how to say no. The pleasure of saying no. I'm saying no because I'm protecting this value that I have. And that's outside of the value, So this is really important that we dial this in between now and the 12th. So if you didn't know this was a major Capricorn time, now you know. And I really hope that serves you. And okay, that's it. This is going into another another share. And I don't know why I have my own hand up. AI is doing that for me. I guess I have a lot to say. When I raise my hand, it wants to raise its hand. So, oh, the last slide. Okay. All right. That's the masculine and feminine. I just, I really want to iterate that it's really about the masculine and feminine working together. I was trying not to make it so many slides, but this primal pair of Venus and Mars, they're really exquisitely working together. And when healthy relationships come, when each, and I would say that no matter the gender or the sex, that, there's this polarity in relationship. There's this, that's what makes it dynamic. And so when each of us in relationship are connected to source from within, then we can have that healthy relationship. We're getting that connection with the larger mystery in our own body. And they each have a synodic cycle with the sun. And so it's really a time to heal. Is your masculine supporting your feminine? Or is he degrading? Are you beating yourself up or finding these ways that internally your team is not supporting? You want to fall in love with all the parts of you and bring them together to have an amazing council inside of you to support you on your sacred mission. And this is one of the places where it can get wobbly because of our conditioning and the way we didn't know how to support ourselves, or we got messages from the culture that the feminine was bad and wrong, or that the masculine was bad and wrong. I mean, let's be honest, every direction, there's a lot of potential for unhealthy manifestations. Okay, hopefully that was nice for you to see that slide. Okay, I shared the last slide, and I just want to, we have a few more minutes together, and I just wanted to talk to the people who are here and, may want to go deeper. So definitely, if you want to be in the circle group, it's off Facebook. I'm loving that. It feels totally different than Facebook. And it's a place to show up, to ask questions, and know about classes that I'm doing. Like I'm inviting that collective experience of sharing. I'm not inviting a bunch of different ways of syncing with Venus in there. I'm trying to hold that boundary so I can really teach you what I've learned in 11 years. But I share a lot, and I invite a lot from you to share or ask questions. So it's a great resource if you're wanting to go deeper with that. And if you have burning questions, I would love for you to drop them in the chat, even though if I can't answer them now, I can see them. And in that group, I can start to work through them and answer them. So please feel free to share your questions that you might have about all of this. And the way to work with me, this is my revelation this year. So I have this group, I've been guiding women in these small groups through the Venus cycle, there's always the us, and then there's the sky story. And they're really two separate things. You know, our own Venus design, our own feminine design is a whole journey into itself. And then when that is activated and we know what that is, and we're living that and embodying that, we also can start to work with the Venus cycle and move with the Venus cycle in our lives. And so what I realized after doing these intimate groups for so long, I don't really do, someone is asking, do I do readings? An hour reading, a 2-hour reading, a 3-hour reading cannot really do justice to bring you into this connection with the deepest intelligence of the 5 feminine designs. And so what I decided that I'm going to do, and I haven't done readings for a while because I've been so committed to this, you know, small group that I've been leading. And then I do a lot of offerings for free in the Venus Wisdom Village. But really my sweet spot is working with women entrepreneurs who are ready to up level in their feminine leadership and really feel bold enough to bring whatever's on their edge, their next offering. And maybe, you know, there's fear there because things are going wobbly, or because, you know, we haven't shown up and outed ourselves. And so if you start to work with Venus, it's a continuous process of outing yourself. You know, I just outed myself to nearly, 2,000 people at the Aquarian High Summit, just sharing, my love of freedom and truth, and how I haven't aligned with, the dominant narrative in the past few years. So there's all these ways that we are hiding, or we're still in that conditioned self, or we think we know who we are. And so I've found that in order to respect the process of really dropping a woman in and showing her the 5 dimensions of her feminine design, which is what I call a Venus avatar, and not only the information, but how to embody them. So including practices, including having a felt sense, including finding images for each one that can then be integrated into this culminating personal archetype that really becomes a touchstone. Similar, like in a lot of traditions, you have this goddess that you're meditating with, but this is actually an image that represents the intimacy of your own inner feminine knowing. So I've decided to open up what I'm calling the Venus Revolution intensives, which are 2 half days with me. And this is really, this level of working with me is for those that are entrepreneurs and are already exerting their influence in the world and have businesses and, probably have reached, 6 figures in what they're doing, and really looking for what's next for me that's going to really help me to have the clarity and insight about who I am and really activate something deeper within. I call this the inner heroine, to stretch beyond where you are now and really tap into these spiritual gifts that may not be what you've been taught, may not be the traditions that you've studied until now. That's my story, is I have studied many traditions and they all fell away for different reasons, to reveal that something else wanted to come forward, and I needed to make space for it. If I was going to be honest with myself, I needed to let go of dear spiritual identities that I had. And, they may re-arise. I don't know. There's not a rejection. It's an honoring of what's true. So I am opening some of those sessions up, only probably 5 in March. And then if someone goes deep and they really get that transmission and they want to begin to join the private group, or maybe you just want it for yourself and you don't want to be in a group situation with it. It really takes that time. And it wasn't to do an hour, to do 2 hours. It wasn't bringing it and honoring the transformation that can happen. And so, yeah, you're so welcome. So if you are interested, if that sounds interesting, you want to explore that, we can get on a call. I can share more of the details with you. And Danette, if you can put that link in there to schedule the call, that would be great. But there's the Venus Wisdom Village is really a place, if you're not ready for that, or that's not, where you're at right now, a place for you to continue the journey and really understand, how do I apply this to me? Because I feel like what what I've uncovered is very valuable, and it becomes more valuable the more of us that participate in it and bring our insights to the table. So women have, launched their businesses. Women have pursued their sacred calling that they were on the verge of giving up on. And then, they really got in touch with that place and knew that they needed to keep going, that their frequency was guiding them to keep doing something, even though it felt scary or felt edgy. So feel free to get on a call if you're that woman entrepreneur. If you're not, please get into the Venus Wisdom Village on Circle, and we can keep playing and we can keep learning and sharing. And there absolutely will be a replay for everyone who signed up. So if you signed up, you're in, you're good. Oh, Adrienne, I am so blessed. Oh, good. You want to out yourself here? You can, or we come into the Venus Wisdom Collective and you can out yourself there. It's so liberating. And, in the field of love, we can really hold a lot of divergent views. And that's what happened in the Aquarian High Summit, right? Some people were bringing things on the edge that were maybe more uncomfortable. And yet we held that field of love and openness and willingness to be the diversity, because that is when the Aquarian genius activates, is when we all show up in our unique self, being who we are. We get to tap into this collective intelligence. So yeah, great. Well, I am so blessed that you're here, Adrienne. What an honor. And I'm so loving to see your astrology that you're starting to share, and, just really encourage anyone and everyone who feels that inspiration. And we haven't talked about it, but I just got that sense that like you felt like it was time, and you just was like, I know what to say and I'm going to say it. And it was just so beautiful. Just, we each have medicine, and it really is the time to start to bring it into a wider field outside of where it's comfortable. So you are so, so, so welcome. And I will hang out for a little bit more, see if there's a couple questions. Oh, the link is not working. Uh-oh. Well, let's investigate that. Danette, if you don't mind investigating that. But I don't have too many calls, so you want to get in there and you want to grab one. And I don't have too many sessions, because I will be, if you're like, well, I'm not sure, for the next Venus and Leo cycle, I am creating something, that will have a wider reach for more women. So I'm also working on that, but it's not quite time. So these are the ways now to either do the super deep dive, go in all the way, or to be in, just be in the group, be in the field, and be learning. So yeah, okay, I'm going to see if there's a question. I love the way you put the question there. That helps. Okay, how does one work with the opening and closing cycles of Venus relative to the natal Venus return? She's in my perfection year, Lord, this year. Okay, cool. Well, beautiful that you're here. A great year to start learning about the Venus cycle. So opening and closing cycles. I'm not sure I totally understand your question. You mean the time she meets the sun? I wouldn't say that I would work with those differently if, you're, who are the Venus and Aries in the house? Probably a lot of you are having Venus return. The Venus and Pisces just did. It's like a huge blessing of your feminine nature, that moment, that day when Venus in the sky touches your natal Venus. It's like this like sweet kiss of that part of you. So definitely paying attention, but I would say for you, that the perfection year is pointing you to learning more, to deepening into Venus mysteries. And then on that day, find out which new Venus portal your Venus return is happening within, because it might be a different sign, right? So she might, like in the last new Venus portal, it was new Venus portal in Aquarius, not this one. Okay. And then during that new Venus portal, she shifted into Pisces. We didn't have a new Venus portal in Pisces. We won't have a new Venus portal for every sign. So that last new Venus portal held all the energy of Aquarius and Pisces. So you want to know, go back to the new Venus portal before your Venus return. What is the energy of that day? And if you haven't, it sounds like you have some astrology knowledge if you know what your perfection year is. Look at the astrology of that new Venus portal. And I didn't go too deep into the astrology of the new Venus portal today, right? I just kind of flashed the chart and talked about things, but what is happening with that moment? Because that new Venus portal moment is a picture, a frozen picture that is showing the energetic terrain for the next month. Just like when Venus meets the sun closest to the earth, that moment is a ripple for the entire 19 months, right? So everything's a fractal here. So you could go back to that new Venus portal and say, what was going on? What were the aspects of Venus? What was really highlighted? And then where does that land in my chart? And that's what I started teaching in the group on Circle. If you go to venuswisdom.com, you can get your chart in whole sign. It's a lot easier in a collective situation to use whole sign because then we're all talking about the same houses. I am, not opposed to using other house systems for other purposes, but it works really great for this. And I kind of just love it for my own reasons. I know there's like a big debate about it right now. I was like, dare I say anything about it? I don't know, but it's really great because then everyone has, everyone who has a Libra rising has Libra in the first house and can be talking about it together. You can pull your sign and you can see the meaning of the house system. You can pull your chart and you can start to then locate Venus in the sky is landing in which house in your chart. Is she touching any planets? Do you have any planets at 2 degrees Aries? So that's the next level. First, you want to really get your Venus avatar. You want to understand your feminine design, and then how do these energies moving through interact with your own. Okay, that was a great question to, I think, close out with. And hopefully we got that link fixed. Great, it's working. Blessings to each of you. This was so much fun. I loved it. Eye of the Tiger. Should I play that song one more time on the way out? I'm going to do it.